好，开始背诵吧。Lesson 1: A private conversation. Last week I went to 问题是 Why did the writer complain to the people behind him? Last week I went to theater. I had very good seat. The play was very interesting. I did not enjoy it. A young man and a young woman were sitting behind me. They were talking loudly. I got very angry. I turned around and looked at the man and the woman angrily. They did not pay any attention. In the end, I could not bear it. I turned around again. I can't hear a word, I said angrily. It's none of your business, the young man said rudely. This is a private conversation. Lesson 2: Breakfast or lunch. Why was the writer's aunt surprised? It was Sunday. I never get up early on Sundays. I sometimes stay in bed until lunchtime. Last Sunday, I got up very late. I looked out of the window. It was dark outside. What a day, I thought. It's raining again. Just then, the telephone rang. It was my Aunt Lucy. I've just arrived by train, she said. I'm coming to see you, but I'm still having breakfast. I said. What are you doing? She asked. I'm having breakfast, I repeated. Dear me, she said. Do you always get up so late? It's 1 o'clock. Lesson 3. Please send me a card. How many cards did the writer send? Postcards always spoil my holidays. Last summer, I went to Italy. I visited museums and sat in public gardens. A friendly winter taught me a few words of Italian. Then he lent me a book. I read a few lines, but I did not understand a word. Every day, I thought about postcards. My holiday passed quickly, but I did not send cards to my friends. On the last day, I made big decision. I got up early and bought 37 cards. I spent the whole day in my room, but I did not write a single card. Lesson 4. The exciting trip. Why is Tim finding this trip exciting? I have just received a letter from my brother Tim. He is in Australia. He has been there for 6 months. Tim is an engineer. He is working for a big firm, and he has already visited a great number of different places in Australia. He has just bought an Australian car and has gone to Alice Springs, a small town in the center of Australia. He will soon visit Darwin. From there, he will fly to Perth. My brother has never been abroad before, so he's finding this trip very exciting. Lesson 5. No wrong numbers. What does no wrong numbers mean? Mr. James Gard has garage in Silbury and now has just bought another garage in Pinehurst. Pinehurst is only 5 miles from Silbury, but Miss Gard cannot get a telephone for his new garage, so he has just bought 12 pigeons. Yesterday, a pigeon carried the first message from Pinehurst to Silbury. The bird covered the distance in 3 minutes. Up to now, Mr. Scott has sent a great many requests for spare parts and other urgent messages from one garage to the other. In this way, he has begun his own private telephone service. Lesson 6. Percy Buttons. Who is Percy Buttons? I've just moved to a house in Bridge Street. Yesterday, a banker knocked at my door. He asked me for a meal and a glass of beer. In return for this, the banker stoned on his head and sang songs. I gave him a meal. He ate the food and drank the beer. Then he put a piece of cheese in his pocket and went away. Later, a neighbor told me about him. His name is Percy Buttons. He calls at every house in the street once a month and always asks for a meal and a glass of beer. Lesson 7. Too late. Did the detective save the diamonds? The plane was late and the detectives were waiting at the airport all morning. They were expecting the valuable puzzle of diamonds from South Africa. A few hours earlier, someone had told police that thieves would try to steal the diamonds. When the plane arrived, some of the detectives were waiting inside the main building, while others were waiting on the airfield. 2 men took the puzzle off the plane. and carried it into the customer's house, while 2 detectives were keeping guard at the door. 2 others opened the puzzle. To their surprise, the precious puzzle was full of stones and sand. Lesson 8. The best and the worst. The best and the worst. Why is John's garden the most beautiful one in the town? John Sanders had the most beautiful garden in our town. Nearly everybody enters for the nicest garden competition each year, but John wins every time. Fred's garden is larger than Joe's. Bill works harder than Joe and grows more flowers and vegetables. But Joe's garden is more interesting. He has made neat paths and has built a wooden bridge over a pool. I like gardens too, but I do not like hard work. Every year I enter for the garden competition too, and I always win a little prize for the worst garden in the town. Lesson 9. A cold welcome. What was the cold welcome referred to? What does the cold welcome refer to? It was Sunday. I never get out. On Wednesday evening, we went to the town hall. It was the last day of the year, and a large crowd of people had gathered under the town hall clock. It was strike 12 in 20 minutes' time. 5 minutes past. 12. 5 minutes past at 5 to 12. The clock stopped. The big minute's hand did not move. We waited and waited, but nothing happened. Suddenly, someone shouted, "It's 2 minutes past 12. The clock has stopped. I looked at my watch. It was true. The big clock refused to welcome the new year. At that moment, everybody began to laugh and sing. Lesson 10. Not for jazz. What happened to that clavichord? We have no musical instrument. It is called a clavichord. It was made in Germany in 1681. Our clavichord is kept in the living room. It has belonged to our family for a long time. The instrument was bought by my grandfather many years ago. Recently, it was damaged by a visitor. She tried to play jazz on it. She struck the keys too hard and 2 of the strings were broken. My father was shocked. Now we're not allowed to touch it. It is being repaired by a friend of my father's. Lesson 11. One good turn deserves another. Who paid for Tony's dinner? I have having dinner at a restaurant when Tony still came in. Tony worked in a lawyer's office years ago, but he is now working at a bank. He gets good salary, but he always borrows money from his friends and never pays it back. Tony saw me and came and sat at the same table. He has never borrowed money from me. While he was eating, I asked him to lend me 20 pounds. To my surprise, he gave me the money immediately. I have never borrowed any money from you, Tony said, so now you can pay for my dinner. Lesson 12. Goodbye and good luck. Where is Captain Ellison going and how? Our neighbor, Captain Charles Ellison, will sail from the Portsmouth tomorrow. We will meet him at the harbor early in the morning. He will be in a small boat, Topsail. Topsail is a famous little boat. It has sailed across the Atlantic many times. Captain Ellison will set out at 8 o'clock, so we will have plenty of time. We'll meet him and we will see his boat, and then we will say goodbye to him. He will be away for 2 months. We are very proud of him. He will take part in important race across the Atlantic. Lesson 13. The Greenwood Boys. Why will the place have a difficult time? The Greenwood Boys are a group of pop singers. At present, they are visiting all parts of the country. They will be arriving here tomorrow. They will be coming by train, and most of the young people in the town will be meeting them at the station. Tomorrow evening, they will be singing at the Workers' Club. The Greenwood Boys will be staying for 5 days. During this time, they will give 5 performances as usual. The place will have a difficult time. They will be trying to keep order. This is the theme on these occasions. Lesson 14. Do you speak English? Did the young man speak English? I had an amusing experience last year. After I had left the country, I had left a small village in the south of France. I drove onto the next town. On the way, a young man waved to me. I stopped and he asked me for a lift. As soon as he had got into the car, I said good morning to him in French, and he replied in the same language. Apart from a few words, I don't know any French at all. Neither of us spoke during the journey. I had nearly reached the town when the young man suddenly said very slowly, "Do you speak English?" As I soon learned, he was English himself. Lesson 15. A new house. Good news. What was the good news? The secretary told me that Mr. Hammersworth would see me. I felt very nervous when I went into his office. He did not look up from his desk when I entered. After I had sat down, he said that the business was very bad. He told me that the firm could not afford to pay such large salaries. 20 people had already left. I knew that my turn had come. "Mr. Harmsworth," I said in a weak voice. "Don't interrupt," he said. Then he smiled and told me I would receive an extra £1,000 a year. Lesson 16. Polite request. What was the polite request? If you park your car in the wrong place, a traffic police will soon find it. You will be very lucky if he lets you go without ticket. However, this does not always happen. Traffic police are sometimes very polite. During holiday in Sweden, I found this note on my car. "Sir, we welcome you to our city. This is no parking area. You will be enjoying your stay here if you pay attention to our street signs. This note is only a reminder. If you receive a request like this, you cannot fail to obey it." Lesson 17. Always young. Why does Aunt Jennifer tell anyone how old she is? My Aunt Jennifer is an actress. She must be at least 35 years old. In spite of this, she often appears on the stage as a young girl. Jennifer will have to take part in a new play soon. This time, she will be a girl of 17. In the play, she must appear in a bright red dress and long black stockings. Last year, in another play, she had to wear short socks and a bright orange-colored dress. If anyone ever asks her how old she is, she always answers, "Darling, it must be terrible to be grown up." And Lesson 18. He often does this. What had happened to the writer's bag? After I had had lunch at a village pub, I looked for my bag. I had left it on a chair beside the door, but it wasn't there. As I was looking for it, the landlord came in. "Did you have a good meal?" he asked. "Yes, thank you," I answered, "but I can't pay the bill. I haven't got my bag." The landlord smiled and immediately went out. In a few minutes, he returned with my bag and gave it back to me. "I'm very sorry," he said. "My dog had taken it into the garden. He often does this." Lesson 19. Sold out. When will the writer see the play? The play may begin at any moment, I said. It may have begun already, Susan answered. I hurried to the tickets office. May I have 2 tickets, please? I asked. I'm sorry, we've sold out, the girl said. What a pity, Susan exclaimed. Just then, a man hurried to the tickets office. Can I return these 2 tickets? He asked. Certainly, the girl said. I went back to the tickets office at once. Could I have those 2 tickets, please? I asked. Certainly, the girl said. But they're for next Wednesday's performance. Do you still want them? I might as well have them, I said sadly. On lesson 20, one man in the boat. Why is fishing the writer's favorite sport? Fishing is my favorite sport. I often fish for hours without catching anything. But this does not worry me. Some fishermen are unlucky. Instead of catching fish, they catch old boats and rubbish. I am even less lucky. I never catch anything, not even old boats. After having spent whole mornings on the river, I always go home with an empty bag. You must give up fishing, my friends say. It's a waste of time. But they don't realize one important thing. I'm not really interested in fishing. I'm only interested in sitting in the boat and doing nothing at all. Lesson 21. Mad or not? Why do people think the writer is mad? Airplanes are slowly driving me mad. I live near an airport and a passing plane can be heard night and day. The airport was built years ago, but for some reason, it could not be used then. Last year, however, it came into use. Over 100 people must be driven away from their homes by the noise. I am one of the few people left. Sometimes I think this house will be knocked down by a passing plane. I have been offered a large sum of money to go away, but I am determined to stay here. Everybody says I must be mad, and they're probably right. Lesson 22. Glass envelope. How did Jean receive a letter from a stranger? My daughter Jean never dreamed of receiving a letter from a girl of her own age in Holland. Last year, when we were traveling across the channel, and Jean put a piece of paper with her name and address on it into a bottle. She threw the bottle into the sea. She never thought of it again. But 10 months later, she received a letter from a girl in Holland. Both girls write to each other regularly now. However, they have decided to use the post office. The letters will cost a little more, but they will certainly travel faster. Lesson 23. A new house. Why was the new house special? I had a letter from my sister yesterday. She lives in Nigeria. In her letter, she said that she would come to England next year. If she comes, she will get surprised. We're now living in a beautiful new house in the country. Work on it had begun before my sister left. The house was completed 5 months ago. In my letter, I told her that she could stay with us. The house has many large rooms and there is a lovely garden. It is a very modern house, so it looks strange to some people. It must be the only modern house in the district. Lesson 24. It could be worse. Had the writer's money been stolen? I entered the hotel manager's office and sat down. I had just lost 50 pounds, and I felt very upset. I left the money in my room, I said, and it's not there now. The manager was sympathetic, but he could do nothing. Everyone's losing money these days, he said. He started to complain about this wicked world, but was interrupted by a knock at the door. A girl came in and put an envelope on his desk. It contained £50. I found this outside this gentleman's room, she said. Well, I said to the manager, there is still some honesty in this world. 第二单元 Lesson 25 Do the English speak English? Why did the writer not understand Porter? I arrived in London at last. The railway station was big, black and dark. I did not know the way to my hotel, so I asked the porter. I not only spoke English very carefully, but very clearly as well. The porter, however, could not understand me. I repeated my question several times, and at last he understood. He answered me. He spoke neither slowly nor clearly. I am a foreigner, I said. Then he spoke slowly, but I could not understand it. My teacher never spoke English like that. The porter and I looked at each other and smiled. Then he said something and I understood it. You will soon learn English, he said. I wonder, in England, each person speaks a different language. The English understand each other, but I don't understand them. Do they speak English? Lesson 26, The Best Art Critics. Who is the student best critic? I'm not a student, and I paint a lot of pictures. Many people pretend that they understand modern art. They always tell you what a picture is about. Of course, many pictures are not about anything. They are just pretty patterns. We like them in the same way that we like pretty cartoon material. Sometimes I think that young children often appreciate modern pictures better than anyone else. They notice more. My sister is only 7, but she always tells me whether my pictures are good or not. She came into my room yesterday. What are you doing? She asked. I'm hanging this picture on the wall. I answered, it's a new one. Do you like it? She looked at it critically for a moment. It's all right, she said, but isn't it upside down? I looked at it again. She was right, it was. Lesson 27. One night. What happened to the boys in the night? Late in the afternoon, the boys put up their tent in the middle of a field. As soon as this was done, they cooked meal over an open fire. They were all hungry and the food smelled good. After one full meal, they told stories and sang songs by the campfire. After some time, it began to rain. The boys felt tired, so they put out the fire and crept into their tent. Their sleeping bags were warm and comfortable, so they all slept soundly. In the middle of the night, 2 boys woke up and began shouting. The tent was full of water. They all left out their sleeping bags and hurried outside. It was raining heavily, and they found that a stream had formed in the field. The stream wound its way across the field and then flowed right under their tent. Lesson 28. 28 课 No parking. What was Jasper White's problem? Jasper White is one of those rare people who believes ancient myths. She has just bought a new house in the city, but ever since he moved in, he has had trouble with cars and their owners. When he returns home at night, he always finds that someone had parked a car outside his gate. Because of this, he has not been able to get his own car into his garage even once. He has put up no parking signs outside his gate, but this has not had any effect. Now he has put not laid stone over the gate. It is the ugliest faces I have ever seen. I asked him what it was, and he told me it was Medusa, the Gorgon. Jasper hopes that she will turn cars and their owners to stone, but none of them has been turned to stone yet. Lesson 29. No, a taxi. 29课 Does Captain Fawcett think any trip is too dangerous? Captain Ben Fawcett has just bought non-Euro taxi and has begun a new service. The taxi is a small Swiss airplane called a piloto spotter. This wonderful plane can carry 7 passengers. The most surprising thing about it, however, is that it can land anywhere, on snow, water, or even on a plowed field. Captain Force's first passenger was a doctor who flew from Birmingham to a lone village in the Welsh mountains. Since then, Captain Force has flown passengers to many un-Euro places. Once, he landed on the roof of a block of flats, and on another occasion, he landed in a desert car park. Captain Forsyth has just refused a strange request from a businessman. The man wanted to fly to Rockall, a lone island in the Atlantic Ocean, but Captain Forsyth did not take him because the trip was too dangerous. Lesson 30. Football or polo. What happened to the man in the boat? The Wheel is a small river that cuts across the park near my home. I like sitting by the wheel on fine afternoons. It was warm last Sunday, so I went and sat on the bank as usual. Some children were playing games on the river, and there were some people rowing on the river. Some children were playing games on the bank, and there were some people rowing on the river. Suddenly, one of the children kicked the ball very hard, and it went toward a passing boat. Some people on the bank caught on to the man in the boat, but he did not hear that. The ball struck him so hard that he nearly fell into the water. I turned to look at the children, but there weren't any inside. They had all run away. The man laughed when he realized what had happened. He called out to the children and threw the ball back to the bank. Lesson 31. Success story. What was Frank's first job? Yesterday afternoon, Frank Hawkins was telling me about his experiences as a young man. But before he retired, Frank was the head of a very large business company. But as a boy, he used to work in a small shop. It was his job to repair bicycles. At that time, he used to work 14 hours a day. He saved money for years, and in 1958, he bought a small workshop of his own. In his 20s, Frank used to make spare parts for airplanes. At that time, he had 2 helpers. In a few years, the small workshop had become a large factory which employed 728 people. Frank smiled when he remembered his hard early years and the long road to success. He was still smiling when the door opened and his wife came in. She wanted him to repair their grandson's bicycle. Lesson 32. The shopping made easy. Who was the thief? People are not so honest as they once were. People are not so honest as they once were. The temptation to steal is greater than ever before, especially in large shops. A detective recently watched a well-dressed woman who always went into a large stores on Monday mornings. One Monday, there were fewer people in the shop than usual when the woman came in. The woman first bought a few small articles. After a little time, she chose one of the most expensive dresses in the shop and handed it to her assistant, who wrapped it up for her as quickly as possible. Then the woman took the parcel. Then the woman simply took the parcel and went out of the shop without paying. When she was arrested, the detective found out that the shop assistant was her daughter. The girl gave her mother a free dress once a week. Lesson 33 out of darkness. Why was the girl in hospital? Nearly a week passed before the girl was able to explain what had happened to her. One afternoon, he set out from the coast in a small boat and was caught in a storm. Towards evening, the boat struck a rock and the girl jumped into the sea. Then she swam to the shore after spending the whole night in the water. During that time, she covered a distance of 8 miles. Early next morning, she saw a light ahead. She knew she was near the shore because the light was high up on the cliff. On arriving at the shore, the girl struggled up the cliff towards the light she had seen. That was all she remembered. When she woke up a day later, she found herself in hospital. Lesson 34, 34课. Quick word. How long had the police taken to find his bicycle? Dan Robinson has been worried all week. Last Tuesday, he received a letter from the local police. In the letter, she was asked to call at the station. Dan was wondered why he was wanted by the police, but he went to the station yesterday, and now he is not worried anymore. At the station, he was told by a smiling policeman that his bicycle has been found. 5 days ago, the police told him. The bicycle was picked up in a small village 400 miles away. It is now being sent to his home by train. Dan was most surprised when he heard the news. He was amused too, because he never expected the bicycle to be found. It was stolen 20 years ago, when Dan was a boy of 15. Lesson 35, 35课. Stop thief. How did Roy stop the thieves? Ron Jordan used to drive a taxi, but a short while ago, he became a bus driver, and he has not regretted it. He is finding his new work far more exciting. When he was driving along Canford Street recently, he saw 2 thieves rush out of a shop and run towards a waiting car. One of them was carrying a bag full of money. Roy acted quickly and drove the bus straight at the thieves. The one with the money got such a fright that he dropped the bag, and the thieves were trying to get away in their car. Roy drove his bus into the back of it while the battered car was moving away. Roy stopped his bus and telephoned the police. The thief's car was badly damaged and easy to recognize. Shortly afterwards, the police stopped the car and both men were arrested. Lesson 36, 36. Across the channel. What is Debbie going to try to do? Debbie Hart is going to swim the English Channel tomorrow. She is going to set out at 5 o'clock. Set out from the French coast at 5 o'clock in the morning. Debbie is only 11 years old, but she hopes to set up a new world record. She is a strong swimmer, and many people feel that she is sure to succeed. Debbie's father will set off with her in a small boat. Mr. Hart has treated his daughter for years. Tomorrow, he will be watching her anxiously as she swims the long distance to England. Debbie intends to take short rests every 2 hours. She will have something to eat and to drink, but she will not eat any solid food. Most of Debbie's school friends will be watching and waiting for her on the English coast. Among them will be Debbie's mother, who swims the channel herself when she was a girl. Lesson 37, The Olympic Games. Olympic 运动会. When was the last time this country hosted the Olympic Games? The Olympic Games will be held in this country in 4 years' time. as a great many people will be visiting the country. The government will be building new hotels, a maze stadium, and an Olympic standard swimming pool. They will also be building new roads and a special railway line. The games will be held just outside the capital, but the whole area will be called Olympic City. Workers will have completed the new roads by the end of this year. By the end of next year, they will have finished work on the new stadium. The fantastic modern buildings have been designed by Kurt Donner. Everybody will be watching anxiously as the new buildings go up. We are all very excited and are looking forward to the Olympic Games because they have never been held before in this country. Lesson 38 38课 Everything except the weather. Why did Harrison sold his house so quickly? My old friend Harrison had lived in the Mediterranean for many years before he returned to England. He had always dreamed of retiring in England and had planned to settle down in the country. He had no sooner returned than he bought a house and went to live there. Almost immediately, he began to complain about the weather. For even though it was still summer, it rained continually and it often baked cold. After so many years of sunshine, Harrison got a shock. He acted as if he had never lived in England before. In the end, it was more than he could bear. He had hardly had time to settle down when he sold the house and left the country. The dream he had had for so many years ended there. Harrison had thought of everything except the weather. Lesson 39 39课 Am I alright? Why Mr. Gilbert telephoned Dr. Millington. While John Gilbert was in hospital, he asked his doctor to tell him whether his operation had been successful, but the doctor refused to do so. The following day, the patient asked for a bedside telephone. When he was alone, he telephoned the hospital exchange and asked for Dr. Millington. When the doctor answered the phone, Mr. Gilbert said that he was inquiring about a certain patient. Mr. John Gilbert. He asked if Mr. Gilbert's operation had been successful, and the doctor told him it had been. He then asked when Mr. Gilbert would allow to go home, and the doctor told him that he would have to stay in hospital for another 2 weeks. Then the doctor asked the caller if he was a relative of the patient. No, the patient answered, I am Mr. John Gilbert. Lesson 40 Food and Talk. Was Mrs. Ramble a good companion at dinner? Last week at a dinner party, the hostess asked me to sit next to Mrs. Ramble. Mrs. Ramble was a large, unsmiling lady in tight black dress. She did not even look up when I took my seat beside her. Her eyes were fixing on her plate, and in a short time she was busy eating. I tried to make conversation. A new play is coming to the Globe soon. I said, will you be seeing it? No, she answered. Will you be staying abroad this year? Will you be spending your holidays abroad this year? No, she answered. Will you be staying in England? I asked. No, she answered. In despair, I asked her whether she was enjoying her dinner. Young man, she answered. If you eat more and talk less, we would both enjoy our dinner. 好 ，Lesson 41 41课。Do you call that a hand? What kind of shopping does the writer enjoy? Do you think? Do you call that a hand? I said to my wife. You needn't be so rude about it, my wife answered as she looked at herself in the mirror. I sat down in one of those modern chairs with holes in it and waited. We had been in the hat shop for half an hour, and my wife was still in front of the mirror. We mustn't buy things we don't need, I remarked it suddenly. I regretted saying it almost at once. You needn't have said that, my wife answered. I needn't remind you of that terrible tie you bought yesterday. I find it beautiful, I said. A man can never have too many ties, and a woman can't have too many hands, she answered. 10 minutes later, we walked out of the shop together. My wife was wearing a hand that looks like a lighthouse. Lesson 42 42课42课 Not very musical. Not very musical. Not very musical. What happened when the snake charmer began to play jazz? As we had had a long walk through one of the market of Old Delhi, we stopped at a square to have a rest. After a time, we noticed a snake charmer with two large baskets at the other side of the square. So we went to have a look at it. As soon as he saw us, he picked up a long pipe which was covered with coins, and opened one of the baskets. When he began to play a tune, we had our first glimpse of the snake. It rose out of the basket and began to follow the movements of the pipe. We are very much surprised when the snake charmer suddenly began to play jazz and modern pop songs. The snake, however, continued to dance slowly. It obviously could not tell the difference between Indian music and jazz. Lesson 43 43 Over the South Pole. Over the South Pole. How was the plane able to clear the mountains? In 1929, 3 years after his flight over the North Pole, the American explorer R.U. Byrd successfully flown over the South Pole for the first time. Though at last, Byrd and his men were able to take a great many pictures of the mountains that lay below. They soon ran into serious trouble. At one point, it seemed certain that their plane would crash. It could only get over the mountains if it rose to 10,000 feet. Byrd at once ordered his men to throw out 2 heavy food sacks. The plane was then able to rise, and it cleared the mountains by 400 feet. Byrd now knew that he would be able to reach the South Pole, which was 300 miles away, for there were no more mountains in sight. The aircraft was able to fly over the endless white plain without difficulty. Lesson 44. Through the forest. How did Mrs. Sterling get her bag back? Mrs. Ann Sterling did not thought of the risk she was taking when she ran through a forest after two men. They had rushed up to her while she was having a picnic at the edge of a forest with her children and tried to steal her handbag. In the struggle, the strap was broken and, with the bag in their possession, both men started running through the trees. Mrs. Sterling got so angry that she ran after them. She was soon out of breath, but she began to run. When she caught up with them, she saw that both men had sat down and were going through the contents of the bag. So she ran straight at them. The men got such a fright that they dropped the bag and ran away. When the strap needs mending, said Mrs. Sterling after, but they did not steal anything. Lesson 45 45课了 A clear conscience. How did Sam get his money back? The whole village soon learned that a large sum of money had been lost. Sam Benton, the local butcher, had lost his wallet while sending his savings to the post office. Sam was sure that his wallet must have been found by one of the villagers, but it was not returned to him. 3 months passed, and then one morning, Sam found his wallet outside his front door. It had been wrapped up in a newspaper, and it contained half the money he had lost, together with a note which said, "A thief, yes, but 50% a thief." 2 months later, some more money was sent to Sam with another note. Now 25% a thief, but 25% a thief now. In time, all Sam's money was paid back in this way. The last note said, "I am 100% honest now." Lesson 46 第46课了 Expensive and uncomfortable. 既昂贵又受罪 What did the man in the story do? When a plane from London arrived at Sydney Airport, workers began to unload a number of wooden boxes which contained clothing. No one could account for the fact that one of the boxes was extremely heavy. It suddenly occurred to one of the workers open up the box. He was astonished at what he found. A man was lying in the box on the pile of woolen goods. On top of a pile of woolen goods. He was so surprised at being discovered that he did not even try to run away. After he was arrested, the man remained hiding in the box before the plane left London. He had had a long and uncomfortable trip, for he had confined to the wooden box for over 18 hours. The man was ordered to pay £3,500 for the cost of the trip, The normal price of a ticket is £2,000. 好，第47课了 Lesson 47 第47课 A Thursday ghost. What evidence of there of a ghost? A public house, which was just bought by Ian Thompson, is up for sale. Mr. Thompson is going to sell it because it is haunted. He told me that he could not went to sleep one night because he heard a strange noise coming from the bar. The next morning, he found that the door had been blocked by chairs and the furniture had been moved. Though Mr. Thompson had turned the lights off before he went to bed, they were on in the morning. He also said that he had found 5 empty whiskey bottles, which the ghost must have drunk the night before. One man suggested that some villagers must have come in for a free drink. Thompson shook his head. The villagers had told him that they were not accept the pub, even if he gives it away. 然后，第二单元最后一个 Lesson 48第48课 Could you want to tell me something? Why did the writer feel very worried? Dentists always ask questions when it is impossible for you to answer. My dentist had just pulled out one of my teeth and had told me to rest for a while. I tried to say something, but my mouth was full of cotton wool. He knew I collected match boxes and asked me whether my collection was growing. He then asked how my brother was and whether I liked my new job in London. In answer to this question, I either nodded or made strange noises. Meanwhile, my tongue was busy searching out the hole where the tooth had been. Suddenly, I felt very nervous, but could not say anything. When the dentist at last removed cotton wool from my mouth, I was able to tell him that he had pulled out the wrong tooth. 开始第3单元的背诵 Lesson 49 The end of the dream. How did the dream end? Tired of sleeping on the floor, a young man in Turin saved up 4 years to buy a real bed. For the first time in his life, he became the proud owner of a bed which had springs and a mattress. Because the weather was very hot, he carried the bed onto the roof of his house. He slept very well for the first 2 nights, but on the third night, a storm blew up. A gust of wind swept the bed off the roof and sent it down to the courtyard below. The young man did not wake up until the bed had struck the ground. Though the bed was smashed to pieces, the man was miraculously unhurt. When he woke up, he was still on the mattress. Glancing at the beds of wood and metal that lay around him, he sadly picked up the mattress and carried it into his room. After he had put it on the floor, he properly went to sleep again. 好 ，Lesson 50第50课 Taken for a ride. Why did the writer not get off the bus and would for the ring? I love traveling in the country, but I don't like losing my way. I went on an excursion recently, but my trip took me longer than I expected. I'm going to Woodford Green, I said to the conductor as I got on the bus, but I don't know where it is. I'll tell you where to get off, answered the conductor. I sat in the front of the bus to get a good view of the countryside. After some time, the bus stopped. Looking around, I realized with a shock that I was only passenger left on the bus. You have to take off here, the conductor said. This is as far as we go. Is this Woodford Green? I asked. Oh dear, said the conductor suddenly. I forgot to put it off. It doesn't matter, I said. I'll get off here. We are going back now, said the conductor. Well, in that case, I prefer to stay on the bus, I answered. Lesson 51 第51课 Lesson 51第51课 Reward for virtue. How did Hill's doubt not work? My friend Hill has always been fat, but things got so bad recently that he decided to go on a diet. He began his diet a week ago. First of all, he wrote out a long list of all the foods which were forbidden. The list included most of the things he loved: butter, potatoes, rice, beer, milk, chocolate, and sweets. Yesterday, I paid him a visit. I rang the bell and was not surprised to see that he was still as fat as ever. He led me into his room and hurriedly hid a large parcel under his desk. It was obviously that he was very embarrassed. When I asked him what he was doing, he smiled guiltily and then put the parcel on the desk. He explained that his diet was so strict that he had to reward himself occasionally. Then he showed me the contents of the parcel. It contained 5 large bars of chocolate and 3 bags of sweets. Lesson 52第52课 A pretty carpet. What is the rector's carpet made of? We have just moved into a new house and I have been working hard all morning. I have been trying to get my new room in order. This has not been easy because I own over 1,000 books. To make matters worse, the room was rather small, so I have temporarily put my books on the floor. At that moment, they covered every inch of floor space that I actually have to work on it to get in or out of the room. A short while ago, my sister helped me to carry one of my old bookcases up the stairs. She came into my room and got a big surprise when she saw all those books on the floor. It was the prettiest carpet I had ever seen, she said. She gazed at it for a moment, then added, You don't need bookcases at all. You can sit here in your spare time and read the carpet. Lesson 53 53课 Hot Snake. What caused the fire? At last, firemen have put up a big forest fire in California. Since then, they have been trying to find how the fire began. Trying to find out how the fire began. Forest fires are often caused by broken glass or by cigarette ends, which people carelessly threw away. Yesterday, the firemen examined the ground carefully, but were not able to find any broken glass. They were also quite sure that a cigarette ends did not cause a fire. Did not start a fire. This morning, however, a fireman accidentally discovered the cause. He noticed the remains of a snake which wound around the electric wires of 16,000-volt power line. In this way, he was able to explain. He was able to solve the myth. The explanation was simple but very unusual. A bird has snatched up the snake from the ground and then dropped it onto the wires. The snake then wound itself around the wires. When it did so, it sent sparks down to the ground, and these immediately started a fire. Lesson 54 54课Stinking fingers. What two interruptions did the writer have? After breakfast, I sent children to school, and then I went to the shops. It was still early when I returned home. The children were at school, my husband was at work, and the house was quiet, so I decided to make some meat pies. In a short time, I was busy mixing butter and flour, and my fingers were soon covered with stinking pastry. At exactly that moment, the telephone rang. Nothing could have been more annoying. I picked up the receiver between two stinking fingers and was dismayed when I recognized the voice of Helen Bates. It took me 10 minutes to persuade her to ring back later. At last, I hung up the receiver. What a mess! There was pastry on my fingers, on the telephone, and on the door knobs. I had no sooner got back to the kitchen than the doorbell loud enough to wake the dead. This time was the postman, and he wanted me to sign for a register letter. 好，第55个 Lesson 55 Not golden mine. Dreamed of finding lost treasure almost came true recently. A new machine called the Revealer has been invented, and it has been used to detect gold which has been buried in the ground. The machine is used in cave near the seashore, where it is said pirates used to bury gold. The pirates would often hide gold in cave and then fail to collect it. Armed with the new machine, a searching party went into the cave, hoping to find buried gold. The leader of the party was examining the soil near the entrance to the cave when the machine showed that there was gold under the ground. Very excited, the party dug a hole 2 feet deep. They finally found a small gold coin, which was almost worthless. The party then searched the whole cave thoroughly, but did not find anything except an empty tin trunk. In spite of this, many people believe that the revealer may reveal something valuable fairly soon. Lesson 56. Faster than sound. How fast did the winning car go? Once a year, a race is held for old cars. A lot of cars entered for this race last year, and there was a great deal of excitement just before it began. One of the most handsome cars was a Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. The unusual car was a Benz, which had only 3 wheels. Built in 1885, it was the oldest car taking part. After a great many loud explosions, the race began. Many of cars broke down on course, and some drivers spent more time under their cars than in them. A few cars, however, completed the race. The winning car reached the speed of 40 miles an hour, much faster than any of its rivals. It sped downhill at the end of the race, and its driver had a lot of trouble trying to stop it. The race gave everyone a great deal of pleasure. It was very different from modern car races, but no less exciting. 好，第57课 Lesson 57。第57课 Can I help you, madam? Did the woman get what she wanted? A woman in jeans stood at the window of an expensive shop. Though she hesitated for a moment, she finally went in and asked to see a dress that was in the window. The assistant who served her did not like the way she was dressed. Glancing at her scornfully, he told her that the dress was sold. The woman went out of the shop angrily and decided to punish the assistant next day. She returned to the shop the following morning, dressed in a fur coat, with a handbag in one hand and a long umbrella in the other. After seeking out the rude assistant, she asked for the same dress. Not realizing who she was, the assistant was eager to serve her. This time, with great difficulty, he climbed into the shop window to get a dress. As soon as she saw it, the woman said she did not like it. She enjoyed herself making the assistant bring almost everything in the window before finally buying the dress she had first asked for. 好，第58课 Lesson 58， 第58课 Blessing in disguise. Why does the vinker refuse to cut down the tree? The tiny village of friendly is said to possess a cursed tree. Because the tree was mentioned in the newspaper, the number of the visitor to Friendly has now increased. The tree was planted near the church 50 years ago, and it is in recent years that it has an evil reputation. It is said that if anyone touches the tree, he will have bad luck. If he picked a leaf, he will die. Many villagers believe that the tree has already fine. It's already has already这个单词是什么 ？Has already agreed a number of many villagers believes that the tree has already claimed a number of victims. The vicar has been asked to have the trees cut down, but so far he has refused. He has pointed out the tree is a useful source of income, as tourists have been coming from all parts of the country to see it. In spite of all that has been said, the tourists have been picking leaves and cutting their names on the tree trunk. So far, not one of them has been struck down by sudden death. 好，这次背诵就先到58个。好，下期见吧，拜拜。